Yeah, this weapon's been out for a bit, and I'm definitely late to the party. But instead of rushing a showcase, I went full lab rat mode to break down every hidden interaction it has. So, if you want more than just flashy kills, stick around. This is the deep dive that turns it into a true level cap soldier character. Vadarya Prime comes in with some pretty impressive base stats for a sniper rifle. 40% crit chance at 2.8 times multiplier and 400 base damage. That crit chance is the highest among all snipers, while its base damage ranks third overall in the game, only behind Coda Sporothrix, 601.6, and Lanka, 525. It's got 2 zoom levels, no scope, and an 8 times scope that gives you plus 50% crit damage additive to mods. Each bullet hit has a chance to roll 0 to 3 lightning strikes on nearby enemies. The lightning strike's base stats follow the same scaling as the shot, including crit chance and crit damage. Unlike many other Prime signature weapons that gain a unique bonus when wielded by their respective Prime Warframe, for example, Nell Prime with Harrow doubling its magazine size from 1 to 2, or Compressa Prime with Yarely gaining plus 30% projectile speed, Vadarya Prime gets no additional bonus when wielded by Caliban Prime. Since it's hit scan, Vadarya Prime doesn't interact with GunCO multiplicatively, and its lightning strikes do not inherit GunCO's damage bonus either. So we won't be using it. However, multi-shot will increase both the number and the times of lightning strikes released, where number refers to the total lightning bolts generated, especially when multiple enemies are hit, and times refers to how many hits a single lightning strike can deal on one target. That is also why earlier in the video I said each bullet instead of each shot. Punch through also helps trigger more lightning strikes, since one bullet can hit multiple targets. Also, lightning strikes hit the same body part you aim at. Super easy to test with Harrow's Covenant. You get plus 50% flat crit chance on body shots, plus 200% on headshots. So, body shots, all white and yellow crits, headshots, orange and red crits everywhere. As for damage buffs, things like Zata's Whisper, Toxic Lash, or Resupply, they buff your direct hit because they create extra damage instances, but lightning strikes don't count as new hits. They're just copies triggered by the bullet. So those skills don't make the lightning stronger. Same story with Volt's Electric Shield or Geyer's Conductive Sphere. They only apply to the bullet itself, not the unique trait. On the flip side, elemental imbues like Shock Trooper or Fireball Frenzy do scale the lightning strikes. So if you stack those, lightning gets juiced. Alright, let's move on to the build. As mentioned earlier, GunCO has about as much synergy with this weapon as a toaster has with a bathtub. So we're tossing that straight into the garbage bin. Instead, we slot in Serration as usual. Next up, multi-shot, because every bullet rolls 0 to 3 lightning strikes. And stacking multi-shot basically guarantees that Zeus personally attends every single shot. Then add 2 crit mods, chance and damage. Now, for the element choice. With so many lightning strikes flying around thanks to multi-shot, it would be borderline criminal not to run a DOT element. So just slap on high voltage and call it a day. Since it's a charge weapon, charge time has a massive impact on its DPS output. So we add primed shred, faster charge, plus a dash of punch through for clearing trash mobs. For arcanes, we'll be running primary deadhead. Also, Vadarya is a sniper rifle. It can equip target acquired. Target acquired bonus adds multiplier to deadhead bucket, which means it is multiplicative to 3 times headshot damage. The final slot goes to a Bane mod, which, by the way, has a spicy little interaction with the Warframe we'll be using later in this video. And in the Exilis slot, throw in Stabilizer, unless you enjoy motion sickness. Alright, now we get to the fun part of the video. As you probably know, back in Update 38, DE reworked all the elemental imbue augments. They no longer merged with whatever elements your weapon already had. Sounds neat, but here's the catch. When they first pushed that rework, DOTs didn't get any benefit from these augments, which basically meant status weapons ended up weaker than usual. Cue the community outrage. Fast forward 3 months, specifically March 19, 2025, patch 38.5.1 drops. They fixed all those DOT issues. But instead of just making things normal again, the bonus from augments went multiplicative with your gun's existing elements. I actually made a video on that bug too. Links in the description if you're curious. Then, 2 months later, patch 38.6 arrives. DE finally untangled everything, and the patch notes said, "Fixed Warframe augment mods that buff element damage, not buffing status effect damage." And you'd think, okay, that's the end of the story. But nope, because that's when I discovered yet another bug with these augments. Let's go back to basics. With an unmodded Vadarya 400 base damage, Electric DOT should deal half, so 200. Now add Shock Trooper. Its bonus stacks additively with your weapon's existing electric mods. So DOT becomes 0.5 times 400 times 1 plus 1 equals 400. Totally normal, right? Yup, nothing weird there. Now let's check resupply. It calculates damage off your weapon hit, then applies its own DOT. Vadarya hits for 400. Resupply on a sniper gives double bonus, so 50%. That's 400 times 0.5 equals 200 for the resupply hit. And DOT is half of that, which is 100. Still perfectly normal. But here's where it gets spicy. What if we stack Shock Trooper on top of resupply? Shock Trooper buffs the weapon hit, which indirectly buffs resupply. So now the gun hits for 400 times 1 plus 1 equals 800. Resupply hit is 800 times 0.5 equals 400. Okay, so DOT should be 0.5 times 400 equals 200, right? Then why are we seeing 401 on screen? Turns out, Resupply's DOT is also benefiting from Shock Trooper. So it's 0.5 times 400 times 1 plus 1 equals 400, or 401 as the game displays it. And that's just base strength. We're not even pushing crazy numbers yet. And since Resupply reuses Toxic Lash's code, the hit also applies Bane mods twice. Without Shock Trooper, the calculation is 400 times 1.55 times 0.5 times 1.55 equals 481 hit damage. The DOT becomes Triple Dip's Bane mod equals 372.39, or 373 shown in-game. Now, with Shock Trooper, it's like slapping on an extra 100% electric mod. The formula for the resupply hit becomes base times 1 plus Shock Trooper times Bane times 0.5 times Bane. Plugging in the numbers equals 961. For the DOT, it scales even crazier. Base times 1 plus Shock Trooper squared times 0.5 times Bane to the power of 3 times 0.5 is approximately 1,489.55, or 1,491, as shown in-game. Right. So with just 961 damage from a resupply hit, we're somehow pumping out nearly 1,500 electric DOT, despite electric's element coefficient being cut in half compared to direct damage. Makes perfect sense, right? Thanks, DE. And of course, when you crank up ability strength, both Shock Trooper and resupply scale with it, so the numbers only get more absurd. Truly terrifying damage. Or, well, terrifying coding, depending on how you look at it. So, let's see just how balanced things can get. Time to pull up Cyte's build table. The build you're seeing on screen is simple. A little bit of strength, a little bit of duration. On top of that, we subsume Shock and equip Shock Trooper for extra DOT and a sneaky indirect buff to Cyte's second ability. And finally, once a bug isn't patched, it becomes a feature.